the South Alabama monkey off of their back. That monkey tried to climb back on last night, but another win for the Golden Eagles, and this was a good one.
Yeah, it really was. Southern Miss took a 3-0 lead. Will McGillis hit his 13th home run of the year earlier in the game. 12 home runs out of the 7-hole. That's pretty good production for McGillis. And then Matt Adams, Matt Adams makes his second midweek start, a guy that's kind of battled some injuries, but a kid out of Houston, threw 6 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts, got in trouble in the 7th, and South Al put up a 4 spot. And I was feeling pretty despondent going into the 8th. Here comes – like Southern Miss over the last 2 years has lost to South Alabama in virtually every sport, including like esports. And so here they come again. And Golden Eagles got something going with 1 out, got a couple hits from Gabe Montenegro and Dustin Dickerson in the top of the 9th. Pato walked. And then Christopher Sargent, who literally grew up about 10 miles from the South Al campus in Wilmer, gets a 2 RBI single. Danny Lynch, who went 3 for 5 on the night, added another insurance run, and then Dalton Rogers came in and got his 4th save of the year in the 9th, and Golden Eagles got Scott Berry win number 470.
And counting for Scott Berry. So, Luke, good baseball teams come in all shapes and sizes, right? You know, every now and then you'll get one of those teams that looks like Tennessee does this year, where they're just bludgeoning people, and that record is just ridiculously gaudy. Then sometimes you have teams that just know how to win. And it kind of feels like that's what this Southern Miss team is or has become. There's a ton of confidence. They expect to win every time they play. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. I know they lost 2 games this weekend. It's baseball. You're going to lose baseball games some of the time. Even as we know, right, without a shadow of a doubt that the pitching's really, really good. But it's not enough. Dominant offensive team. It's a good defensive team, but not a great team. They just know how to win, or at least that's my observation. Do you agree with that at all?
When you watch this team play, it's basically asking which guy in 1 through 9 is going to have a good game. I mean, Sargent, even though he's got 14 home runs, he and Lynch have the worst average. Both of them are below 250. And they're the ones that get the 3 RBIs in the top of the 9th last night. Gabe Montenegro has really come on. He's batting at 290 or a little over 290. His brother, who had to DH over the weekend, Rodrigo Montenegro, is at 291. And so it's without Ewing and Wilks in the lineup. I mean, Charlie Fisher got a big ground rule double last night. So it just seems as if the wealth of clutchness and productivity can clearly come from anywhere, in the lineup. And that's what we've kind of seen throughout the year is different guys have stepped up at different times.
So Reese Ewing another couple of weeks. We know that at this point. What about the Slade Wilks update? So Scott told us on Monday, kind of back to square one. They got him back, and then he had the collision with the wall and re-aggravated the oblique, and maybe there's a little bit of a shoulder deal now. How big a deal is the Slade Wilks injury, and how long do you think he's going to be out?
I mean, I think Scott used the same terminology with you as he did with us. Like they're back to square one, which is now it's 2 issues. Seemed like the oblique may be a little worse. He was out for I think 5 or 6 games, about out a week. So you could see them not pushing him back, and he may not be back until Middle Tennessee. Ewing should be back next week against UTSA, but it's one of those things. If it's a little ginger, they'd rather hold him out. I mean, I mentioned Charlie Fisher. This is a guy that was All-Conference USA designated hitter, first team. He was an All-South first selection last year, preseason All-Conference. Started really cold. Slade Wilks took it over. So that's the guy that, you've got an All-Conference guy stepping in, and he's at the place where he's getting he had a lot of good at-bats last night. He just hadn't had the volume this year because of Wilks' production. So, he's a guy, if he sees more bats, he could be really clutch down the stretch. And if Wilks continues to be out, Southern Miss needs Charlie Fisher to produce.
10 games left in the regular season. Old Dominion, midweek with Ole Miss, UTSA, and then on the road against Middle Tennessee. What do you think about this closing 10-game stretch?
When we looked at the schedule, we thought the first half of it was going to be daunting, and you get past FAU and you get past Tech, but now your last 3 opponents are all top 60 RPI teams. You look at what Old Dominion's done. They beat Virginia in April. UTSA beat Stanford earlier in the season. Middle Tennessee took 2 out of 3 at Auburn. This Old Dominion club, I mean, we talk about Tennessee's offensive numbers. Old Dominion has hit 13 fewer home runs than Tennessee, second nationally. So they've hit 95 home runs. 3 of their power guys have hit 57 combined, which is as many as the Golden Eagles have hit as a team.
Yeah.
Old Dominion swipes about an 83% clip, right at 60 stolen bases. And they're going to throw a guy Friday night named Blake Morgan. He's a freshman. He entered the rotation in early April, has not allowed an earned or unearned run in 4 rotation starts. So he'll be, against Tanner Hall. So you look at Old Dominion, 15 of their 29 wins are quad 4 wins, but you see some of the stuff they've done in March and April. UTSA, they got drilled last night by the Fighting Vaqueros of the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. That was not a good win for UTSA last night, but they're still, a top 55 team. And then you go to Murfreesboro, which may be possibly the most challenging, road series that you've had all season, and you got Ole Miss. So it seems as if this final stretch is really going to challenge the Golden Eagles. They've got to, with any hope of, finishing the top 8, I think they got to go 8-2.
Scott Berry said to us earlier this week that he thought UAB had the best approach and got the best swings off of any team that they faced this season. We know that there's video out there and teams scout other teams. Whatever it was that UAB did well, is that something that can be replicated by other teams, or is it just UAB's got some really good hitters?
We were breaking it down on the Eagle Hour. It was really interesting. All 3 starters, Hall, Riggins, and Waldrop, had high pitch counts. I mean, they were all, near 100. And they didn't walk very many people, which tells you that UAB was getting hits, with a 2-2, 3-2 count. Because especially with Hall and Waldrop, a lot of their swing and miss stuff is pitches outside the zone. And so UAB didn't allow, outside the zone pitches to get them. That could be something, a more patient approach. That was the reason for their approach this weekend, because the pitch count and the walk numbers, Southern Miss didn't walk people like they haven't done. UAB just waited later in the count to hit the ball.
It's interesting stuff. What do you make of the projections? D1 baseball has Southern Miss as the 10 seed, so they drop a little bit from where they were last week. Feels like maybe they're still, with a really strong finish, an opportunity to climb back into a top 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got to win. They got to sweep one of these series. They got, if they're, they can get to 43 wins, and then you win 2 or 3 in the tournament, you're 45, 46 plus, and I think that would get them to where they would need to be. You just feel like this one. They're 1 run away from a completely different conversation over the weekend. You win 2 out of 3 at UAB. There's nothing really going on. You win a road series, but yeah, I think last night was a great opportunity for them to basically have their backs to the wall, because they know now you could be, if you lose a series, you may be still can host, but you're 15 or 16. I mean, that's just the way it is. I think, to be honest, the committee is going to give the benefit of the doubt to a Power 5 team, whether it's deserved or not. I mean, that's just what they're going to do. The Golden Eagles have a little more, little extra possibly than a few other teams, just because of what they did first half of the season. But they gotta have a few other teams continue to win, especially if Dallas Baptist stays in the top 5 RPI. That'll help the Eagles. Yeah,
no question there. I guess the phrase that I've used to describe it is, it feels like there's a little less margin for error.
Sure.
Because maybe of who the opponents are, whether it's reputation or RPI or some combination therein, it's like you got to prove it a little bit more if you're in the spot that Southern Miss is in. Whether that's right or wrong, it just kind of feels like that's kind of what it is. We got 30 seconds left.
Southern Miss can win the SEC West if they beat Ole Miss, go undefeated in the SEC West. That would help in some ways. I said that as a joke. Just a cool stat to throw out, for your listeners. This is why this Eagles staff has been so good. 38 of the 45 games this year, they've struck out 9 or more batters. 32, they've struck out 10 or more batters. that's what's allowing them to continue to win. Now with Matt Adams, they got 6 or 7 legit starters going into conference tournament play, and it's this final stretch. So that's what you want.